Layer0 makes deploying your GitHub project fast and simple. Let's discuss how to sign up using your GitHub account, deploying your project to Layer0, and setting up automated deployments using GitHub Actions. We will also be using the Layer0 CLI to interact with the platform. So if this is your first time working with Layer0, see our Getting Started guide at docs.layer0.co. I'm going to use the Next.js reactions demo just to show how easy it is to deploy to Layer0. And since we'll also be demonstrating deployment with GitHub Actions, let's fork and clone the repository. I'll also remove the yarn lock file and reinstall dependencies with npm. This is not a requirement for projects, but because the GitHub workflow I'll be using is configured for npm, I'd like to keep everything consistent. Now we need to initialize the project using the CLI by running layer0 init. As a shortcut, you can also use the numeric 0 instead of typing out layer0. This will install all the dependencies along with the default router and layer0 configuration necessary for deployment. Before deploying, we need to authenticate the CLI to the Layer0 platform. To open the login screen, type 0 login and the browser window will open for authentication. Click on your existing GitHub account and Layer0 will do the rest. Now let's open the project in our IDE. This example uses live data from the GitHub API, but this does require setting up a personal access token. To simplify the example, I will use the mock data already provided in the code and remove the fetch request since it's not needed for this demonstration. Next, I'll build the project to ensure everything bundles correctly. You can build using the 0 build command. Once the build is completed, I will deploy it to Layer0 under the GitHub account I just authenticated with. To deploy, simply run 0 deploy. As a side note, running the deploy command does a build as well, so it's not necessary to run both each time you wish to deploy. If this is the first deployment of your project, be aware that it will take a little longer to provision the environment. As we can see, the deploy was successful, so let's click on the link to see our site live on Layer0. To set up automatic deployments using GitHub Actions, we'll need to set up a deploy token. Navigate to your project in the Layer0 Developer Console and go to the Site Settings. Click the Create New Deploy Token button and give your token a name. I'll call this one GitHub Action. Next, copy the generated token and navigate back to your GitHub repository. Under Settings, then Secrets, create a new secret. We'll call this Layer0 Deploy Token. Let's navigate over to our docs and look at the Layer0 deploying guide. There's a sample GitHub Action snippet we can use as a starter. Copy this content and create a new file within your project called layer0.yml under the .github/workflows directory. At the bottom of this script, there are some arguments that decide which Layer0 environment to deploy to based on which branch was pushed. Because we don't have any different environments on this particular project, I'll simply remove these arguments. With the workflow created, let's go back to the terminal and add our changed files, commit, and push the changes to trigger the build. We can then navigate over to the Actions page on the repository and see that the job has started. Deployment will typically take a couple of minutes depending on the size of the site. Once the job is finished, we can scroll through the build logs of our action to verify the output. At the bottom of the output will be links to view your project in the Layer0 Developer Console, as well as a link to view your site live. I'll click the link just to verify everything was a success. This wraps up our segment on deploying your GitHub project to Layer0. For additional information, please visit our documentation. Thanks for listening and happy coding.